The desert auction had almost no visitors that morning. Most people came looking for abandoned machinery, old farming equipment, or forgotten storage containers. Daniel Carter, a 38-year-old single father, was there for a different reason. He had spent years restoring classic cars in a small garage while raising his 11-year-old daughter, Lucy. When he heard about a bankrupt aviation company selling an old hangar in the middle of nowhere, he became curious. The property was surprisingly cheap, almost suspiciously cheap, and after using nearly all his savings, Daniel signed the papers without even stepping inside. Lucy climbed out of their dusty pickup truck and looked at the enormous metal building standing alone beneath the blazing sun. "Dad, are we really buying an airplane garage?" she asked. Daniel laughed softly and adjusted his cap. "I have no idea what we're buying," he admitted. "But sometimes the best treasures are hidden where nobody bothers to look." The little girl grinned because her father had been saying things like that ever since she could remember. The old caretaker handed Daniel a ring of rusty keys. "Nobody's opened this place in 7 years," he said. "Most folks think it's empty." Then he climbed into his Jeep and drove away, leaving father and daughter alone in the silence of the desert. A warm wind swept across the sand as Daniel inserted the largest key into the massive lock. The mechanism groaned loudly, as though it had been sleeping for years. With both hands, Daniel pushed the heavy doors open. Dust filled the air, and sunlight slowly spilled into the giant hangar. Then both father and daughter froze. Parked inside, beneath old covers and layers of dust, were 9 exotic supercars lined up like sleeping beasts. Near the back of the hangar sat 3 helicopters, their polished bodies hidden under faded tarps. For several seconds, neither of them said a word. Lucy finally broke the silence. "Dad," she whispered. "I think we bought the wrong garage." Daniel walked slowly toward the nearest vehicle and pulled away the dusty cover. Underneath was a bright red supercar worth more money than he had earned in his entire life. His mouth slowly fell open. He uncovered another. Then another. Every car was rare, expensive, and perfectly preserved. Inside a small office overlooking the hangar, Daniel discovered several old files and a locked safe. The safe had already been opened, but one document remained inside. It contained only a vehicle inventory and a note that read, "Property abandoned. Ownership unresolved." He frowned. Something about the entire place felt strange. Why would someone leave behind a fortune and simply disappear? The next morning, Daniel drove one of the restored helicopters to the nearest city airport to verify the ownership records. The unusual sight of an old aircraft landing on the private pad immediately attracted attention. Within minutes, airport employees, mechanics, and reporters had gathered around. Among them was Victoria Lang, one of the most successful aviation executives in the country. Victoria approached the helicopter, then suddenly stopped walking. Her expression changed completely. She reached out and touched the aircraft's side panel with trembling fingers. "No," she whispered. Daniel looked confused. "Is something wrong?" The CEO slowly turned toward him, her eyes filled with disbelief. "Where did you get this helicopter?" Daniel explained about the desert hangar and the auction. He expected curiosity. Instead, the CEO looked as though she had seen a ghost. She stepped closer to the aircraft and stared at a small silver emblem engraved near the door. Then she looked back at Daniel. "This helicopter belonged to someone I thought I'd never see again." The crowd grew quiet. Reporters lowered their cameras. Victoria swallowed hard and asked a question that made Daniel's heart race. "Tell me, was there anything else in that hangar?" When he mentioned the 9 supercars and the other helicopters, the color completely drained from her face. Then she whispered words that silenced everyone around them. "You don't understand. Those vehicles belonged to the man who disappeared 15 years ago, my father." The airport became completely silent. Daniel stared at Victoria. "I'm sorry, your father?" She nodded slowly, her eyes still fixed on the helicopter. 15 years ago, my father vanished without a trace. The reporters immediately began whispering. Everyone in the aviation industry knew the story. Edward Lang had disappeared one night, leaving behind one of the largest aviation companies in the country. No body had ever been found. No note had ever been discovered. He had simply vanished. Victoria looked at Daniel. These helicopters, these cars, they belonged to him. Daniel frowned. But why would they be abandoned in a desert hangar? She slowly shook her head. I don't know. One of the reporters stepped forward. Ms. Lang, are you saying this could be evidence of what happened to your father? Victoria didn't answer. She couldn't take her eyes off the silver emblem. Then she looked at Daniel. Can you take me there? The hangar? Right now. An hour later, 2 SUVs and a small convoy of reporters followed Daniel's pickup into the desert. Lucy sat in the back seat, looking excited and nervous. Dad, do you think we're going on a treasure hunt? Daniel smiled. I think we already found the treasure. When they reached the hangar, Victoria stepped out slowly. For several moments, she simply stared at the building. Then she whispered. I was here once. Daniel looked surprised. You were? I was 10 years old. She looked around the empty desert. My father brought me here and said it was his secret place. She took a shaky breath. I hadn't seen it since. The giant doors creaked open once more. Sunlight spilled across the supercars. Victoria covered her mouth. There they were. The same cars she remembered sitting in as a child. The same helicopters. The same office in the corner. Tears filled her eyes. One by one, she touched the vehicles. This was his favorite. She smiled at a blue supercar. And this one. She touched a silver car. He promised to teach me to drive in this one. The room had become completely silent. Even the reporters stopped taking pictures. Then Victoria suddenly froze. She was staring at the office upstairs. What's wrong? Daniel asked. She pointed. The light. There isn't a light. No. Her voice trembled. The lamp on the desk. Everyone looked toward the office. The old desk lamp was tilted slightly to one side. Victoria's eyes widened. My father always left it like that. She quickly climbed the stairs. Daniel followed. Inside the office, dust covered almost everything. Almost. Victoria noticed something immediately. One drawer looked cleaner than the others. As though someone had opened it recently.